You support Trump?
Yeah, for the most part.
Like, if you could go back in time and you could either vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, who would you vote for?
I'd still vote for Trump even today.
Why so?
One of the big reasons why I support Trump is I think he has much better housing policy than what Harris was proposing and even what Biden did during his administration. I think housing is probably one of the most important issues facing society now. Historically, housing has been the way to build generational wealth, and everyone needs a affordable and safe place to live. So this is an issue
What the
that's
is his housing affordability policy?
well. First of all, Trump did a lot of good things to promote more affordable housing. He actually expanded the low-income housing tax credit during his first term. That historically has been one of the most important federal policies to help improve affordable housing in the country. So I
When did he
think
do
that was,
that?
I believe it was in 2017. And then he also did the opportunity zones as part of the 2018 tax cuts.
That doesn't relate to housing affordability, but I don't see this.
In 2020, he actually did it recently. I'm sorry, yeah, 2020, he signed fiscal year 2021 spending. Uh, it
Oh, so
includes
2021.
fiscal year 2021. This was in 2020 during the end of his first term. Permanent 4% low income housing tax credit, 5-year extension of the new market tax credits, and also extensions on renewable energy tax credits.
You think Donald Trump expanded renewable energy tax credits? That's laughable. That was a Biden policy. That's
My
actually
understanding
what you just referenced is something that Biden did. Absolutely.
that might be true, but I think Trump just showing his desire to expand some of these subsidies, I think is a good policy. But I really liked his opportunity zones as part of the 2018 tax cut bill. Historically, there's been a really big lack of investment in very poor rural communities throughout the country. And this was a good policy that helped both institutional investors, private equity firms, to actually invest in communities that, a lot of institutional investors might
Here,
overlook
I have a question.
historically.
Do you think a better policy for health, for building up new houses would be a $25,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers for new homes?
No, I don't think that's a better policy at all.
Why?
I think it's well. First of all, I think that directly causes housing prices to increase. I think it's an inflationary policy. I think by
And by the way, I just want to let you know the emergency rental assistance that was for COVID. That's like literally what you just gave as a policy for Donald Trump in terms of housing affordability was not even something proponed by him. It was just something he signed into law as a result of COVID era policy. Because yes, this
what
is
is
this is
the
from December 28th, 2020. That's COVID era policy.
what
It
is
was
the
and it says emergency rental assistance.
yeah, that's just one aspect. But
So
what
can
is
you give me one policy he advocated for that
yeah,
was long term
permanent
specifically that gave help to housing affordability for people who need it?
yeah, there I mean the new market tax credit extension was for 5-year terms, so you can't say that was just for COVID. And
It
also
literally is emergency rental assistance.
that's a separate thing
It's
entirely.
totally related to COVID.
Low income housing tax credits have nothing to do with COVID. That's been a policy since the 70s, I believe. Um, a lot of people said that Trump doesn't care about affordable renters, but I think this shows otherwise.
It's
Um,
an emergency COVID policy.
no, not
Can you give me
expanding
one
all.
policy he's advocating for in terms of affordable housing for his administration right now? Give me one.
Yeah, he's looking to expand visas for skilled immigrants.
You think he's more open to immigration? That's laughable. No way he just argued this. You just argued that Donald Trump is more open to immigration as a reason that why he's better for affordable housing? Are you
Well,
kidding me?
if you look at Trump's immigration policy, he's very particularized. He doesn't want people coming here who are going to strain our, public services. He wants people who could
I just want to
come
let you know.
here.
You know, mass deportation will deport a lot of people involved in construction that specifically will then lead to increased prices as it relates to construction, correct?
Yes, that may be true, but I think what he's trying to
Within
do is,
plenty of other industries as well, because they provide productive services to the economy. And Donald Trump wants to deport people who have not committed violent crimes or bad crimes who fucking should not be deported.
yeah, I think I would have to agree with you with that. I think there's a lot of merit to saying that people, even undocumented, should be able to come here when they work in these industries. But, I think by having an immigration policy that prioritizes very high demand trades, Trump is proposing to, you know, expand
You wait,
visa
wait. You act
programs.
like Democrats wouldn't allow all of those people to get into the country. Every single person that Donald Trump's going to allow, do you think would be allowed under a Democratic administration?
Yeah, that's true. But I
Okay,
think
so then tell me specifically what about immigration that Donald Trump's going to do that's going to be better than what Democrats would do?
we can't just have an open door policy that the Democrats are in favor of. I mean,
It's not
it's
open
too,
door. Not
how
even
is it not
close.
open door?
What? What do you mean? Obama deported the most people out of any president, right? You understand that, right? Biden deported more people than Trump has so far. It's the process that Trump is deporting people, specifically one that people are protesting, and two that Donald Trump is advocating for even more mass deportation in the long run. So he's trying his damnedest and his hardest to do it, but he can't. He just sucks.
Don't you think that there's some merit to saying that our public services are being overwhelmed by a large influx of undocumented immigrants?
No,
No.
there's no merit to that.
I mean, who pays when an illegal immigrant gets hurt on the job and has to go to
So
the ER? Who pays for
there's
that?
the rock star. So you're saying that that's paid through who? I have a question. If that happens to a tourist, who pays for it?
I mean, presume you could purchase travel health insurance. No?
So it would be the person, right? So why is that you not in this circumstance or workman's comp, like what people are saying in the comment section?
I think not every illegal
Thank you for the
or
secret lifestyle.
undocumented immigrant that comes to this country has the means to pay for themselves. I mean, it's definitely a strain on our public services. Education's another thing that's extremely expensive that states are footing the bill for. There's a lot of states that allow undocumented immigrants into their public school system, and that's just a big strain. And if they end up going back to their country of
So you're
origin,
saying kids going to school?
yeah, if they end up going back to where they came, how is our investment in their public education going to pay off?
Wait, you understand that that people are going to stay in the country if they immigrate here?
Not necessarily. There's people who come here to make money. They take that money back to where they.
Wait. You know that's what I have a question. Did you know in my high school I had someone specifically who came from who's an international student? Was it wrong for him to benefit off of public schools here in the United States?
No, I mean there's always going
Why?
to be instances. Well, that presumes that he intends to stay here long term,
He didn't.
intends to have
He
gainful
went back. He went
employment.
back to Germany.
Yeah, then I don't really see that really benefiting us. I don't think that
So,
investment
do
in our
you think
public
that
education.
international students shouldn't be allowed?
I think that we should prioritize international students who intend to immigrate to the United States as opposed to people who come here.
Yeah, but
Um,
no, but should
well,
people be allowed to spend a few months here, right, a few years, right, specifically studying here, and then go back to their country?
Yeah, I think if you're paying tuition, you should be able to, but if you're gonna use public education, taxpayer funded public education, I don't think that should be incentivized if you're
Okay, so
do you have
you're against the idea that exchange students should exist.
I'm
Like
against the
he
idea.
says he wants to get rid of exchange students.
No, I don't think that's a good policy. I would agree with you for that, but I think specifically public education, taxpayer funded public education, I don't think we should prioritize people who don't have a clear intention to stay long term in the country. I think it is a strain on our social services. I think that should really be reserved for people who intend
Then
to,
why aren't you against exchange students?
because they're not using public education.
They
If
are.
they're paying tuition, I think that's different.
They are. Like
They're,
again, I gave an example. Someone went to my high school that was from Germany, that was an exchange student, and they went to a public school. I went to a public school. I didn't go to a private school.
I think that's a bit problematic, honestly. Reasonable minds, but I think there is some problem
What?
with people who don't intend to stay here long term, using our public resources. I think that's a big strain on us.
Why? Why is that a big strain? No, it's a small portion, very small portion of the budget, dude. Jesus Christ!
Public
You know what's
education
a
is a
big
small
strain on our
proportion.
budget? You know what's a big strain on our budget? Trump. He signed off on more debt-related spending, 8.4 trillion overall, 4.8 trillion non-COVID related. If you don't care about that, but you do care about exchange students, I'm gonna cry, bro. That's insane. We're talking about trillions of dollars, right? As in terms of voting for Donald Trump more than you would get as a comparison for getting Harris as president, comparative to exchange students that are not even adding to the deficit, like at all. What are you talking about?
That's a state level thing, public education. The federal government, yes, subsidizes that, but that's mostly on the states. That's not a federal policy.
There's federal grants, dude.
Yes, yes, you're right, but it's primarily
You want to cut out the federal involvement because you want to abolish the Department of Education. That's just gonna make you just not eat. Do you want your kids to be dumber than you?
I mean, I'm all for public education, but I don't support funding public education for people who do not intend to invest long term in our country. And I think that's a fair point. But going back to your point, I don't
Jeez, dude.
I don't like that Harris $25,000 first time home buyer policy. I think that's inflationary. It does absolutely nothing to the
Well,
main problem now is
that's actually the purpose of it. Do you want me to explain to you why that's the purpose of it? It's
sure, go ahead.
inflationary specifically for new houses to incentivize suppliers to build more houses in places where people want to live. But it doesn't actually make it less affordable for people who are buying new houses because it is the case that they get the tax credit.
Hmm. I see, but I think there's other things that Trump has done that is really more beneficial to address the inventory shortage that we're having right now.
Like,
Well, I mentioned a few of them already. I don't really want to go back and mention it again. I really like the another one I hadn't mentioned is utilizing federal lands for residential development.
that's a very small portion of federal lands. I actually don't disagree with this, though.
Okay, fair enough.
It also depends on what federal lands they're using. Like, are you like cutting into wilderness? Hell no.
No, I
I want to
wouldn't
keep
support.
the nature reserves. I don't think we have to cut into wilderness to be able to do that. Zach, thank you for the $20. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
agree with
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
agree with
So
that.
Zach, I wouldn't be able to clarify all the crimes, but like obviously it would be crimes that would involve like very high levels of fraud. All right, that specifically we wouldn't want to let people into the country based upon. Like that would be an example. Maybe ones related to election, right? Like say someone was like a like undermined like democratic results, right, or something like that. We wouldn't want to let them in the country. Those are examples of like non-violent sets of circumstances that we would still consider reason to like not let people in the country. So like bad crimes. So those are examples. So again, when I say bad crimes, I mean like they meet a particular threshold that we would say then they should be deported. Because I mean there are certain crimes that are bad that I don't think someone should be deported for, right? Like if someone stole something, right? I mean I would consider it bad, but I wouldn't consider it bad enough to be like for someone to be deported. But yeah, go ahead. You were
Yeah,
saying, Andrew.
Yeah, so Parker, another big thing that I was very critical of is Biden's proposal to implement a nationwide rent control policy. I just think that's a poor idea. I
Hold
mean,
up, hold
we've
up, hold
had,
up, hold up. I have one more thing. Someone said, "What are good crimes?" For example, right? There's something illegal right now. We're currently on an app as TikTok that's illegal, right? It's currently banned under the law, just not being enforced by the president of the United States administration, right? That's specifically under the law. It's illegal. Yet I still think it's good specifically to use this app to like benefit people, right? Even though the app is illegal. And throughout history, there are plenty of laws that have existed, right, that we would consider good. There's an example I gave specifically to Jordan Peterson, where it was about like, for example, in the Holocaust, or right around the Holocaust time, right? You have Nazi officials knock on your door. You have a Jewish friend that's in your attic. Do you lie to the Nazi official in order to save the life of the Jewish individual, even if it's against the law? Yes. Yes, that would be a good crime to commit. It'd be good to lie to them in that scenario because you want to preserve the life of your friend. Does it make sense? That's an example of a good crime. So yes, there are plenty of scenarios where there are certain crimes that we consider actually good to do throughout history that we could point to, at least from a philosophical sense here.
yeah, one of the policies I was also very critical of is when Biden proposed nationwide rent control. I don't think that's a good idea at all. Um, there's so many problems with that. I don't even know where to start.
Wait, I asked you for like housing affordability policy on behalf of Trump, and now you're referencing rent control policy. So I would be in support of that insofar as that it's specifically based on limiting price gouging, because that doesn't affect the supply curve.
I would disagree with that. I think
What?
when
How?
you have rent control, it disincentivizes investments in the
Not if
multifamily.
there's price gouging involved.
I disagree. I mean, anyone who invests in affordable housing has the right to a fair return on that investment, and arguably, it's
What a fair,
unconstitutional.
yeah, yeah. No one's disputing a fair return, but what we're arguing is that they're gouging people for things that they need. A fair return is about incentive, would still incentivize them specifically to produce more. We're talking about a point where it doesn't even incentivize them to produce more.
Arguably, this is in violation of the takings clause to, you know, add regulation to people's investments and say that the government is able to limit what people can charge in a fair market. I think it's anti-capitalist.
Right? Okay. Do
It's
you agree with Donald Trump's $35 cap on insulin for people on parts of Medicare?
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Oh,
Yeah,
isn't that price controls?
it is price controls, but I'm not sure that.
Oh, so he's totally okay when Trump does it.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Look
that
at
that
that. You see how
classifies as
quick he
business.
switched? Immediately. The question right after he said that immediately switched because Trump did it.
Well, I'm not sure that's in violation of the Constitution and classifies it
Oh,
under the business section.
you definitely care about violations of the Constitution. You support Donald Trump. He's literally violated the Constitution multiple times, called for the termination of the Constitution. He's advocating for birthright citizenship policy, right? Changing that, which is grounded in the Constitution without changing like the amendments.
I mean, I think there is some ambiguity in the Constitution about that. I mean, it says nothing about parents who come here illegally and
Hold up. It says, what does it say about us? Can you tell me the definition of a citizen that it provides?
naturalized born citizens are, duly enabled citizens of the United States. But I mean, it didn't say anything specifically about parents who come here illegally
It says
or undocumented,
people who are born in the country.
right?
Okay. That's
But like I said, it doesn't speak directly to those instances where undocumented people come here. I think the way the Constitution was written, it intended,
it does. It says person.
but does it speak directly to parents who
Person
come here?
born in the country.
Right,
The
but it doesn't
person
speak
born in the country
directly.
was the kid. I have a question. If a tourist has a kid in this country, is that should that kid be a citizen?
If they're here on a valid tourist visa, sure.
So the parent doesn't have to be a citizen in order for them to be able to be a
They're
citizen.
not
So right there,
they're not
he
violating.
disagreed with birthright citizenship.
Yeah, but in that instance, they're not violating our immigration or visas.
So that's still birthright citizenship.
I don't think people should be incentivized to come here unlawfully, have a child, have that child be a citizen, and then by virtue of that,
By the way, you
have,
say come here unlawfully. You know that someone could just come here, stay here within the context of the 90 days, have a kid within the context of the 90 days that they can stay here, and then their kid would be a citizen. So you can lawfully
well,
have a child through the context of birthright citizenship as well, very easily, under your view.
I mean, as long as they're here within the visa period, I don't have a problem with that. But as soon as they overstay that visa, I do have a problem.
No, if someone just comes here with a passport, they can stay for like
You're on a tourist visa.
90 days, or I think at
Yep.
least something like that. They can have the kid within 90 days.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the moment they overstay their visa,
Are you saying
then
you
I would
wouldn't
have a
let
problem.
pregnant women into the country?
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
But if they overstay their visa, then it's time to go back.
Well, they have to, but so then the kid, where does the kid go? Can the kid stay?
I think the kid could stay in that case, but
But
I
by
mean,
themselves?
no. So I think
Push
it.
level up.
Let me rephrase
So they
that.
can stay with the kid, right?
I misspoke. If the child is birthed here during the duration of a valid visa, I think they should be allowed to stay.
Wait, repeat that?
If during the birth of the child there's a valid visa in place, then I think they should be
If they
allowed
came
to.
here with a passport.
Are you and they give birth
Yeah.
while they're here for the 90 days?
Yeah.
Then yeah, I think they should be allowed to stay.
Okay, well, everyone's just going to do that. How
Yeah,
does this change the process?
because they don't have any intention to infringe on our immigration laws that way.
Okay,
They're here.
so you just want to enforce the law in all circumstances.
Yep. If
Okay.
you want to change the law,
Okay.
then you do it.
If
and
you
then
want
things
to, so
happen.
you if you want to enforce the law in all circumstances, what app are you on?
TikTok.
Do you know TikTok's currently banned? It's illegal to use, and that it's just not being enforced by the Trump administration. So you talk a hell of a lot about enforcing all the laws, but you're currently using an app right now that's only able to be used because Donald Trump and his administration are not enforcing the law.
I actually was not aware of that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
So you must get off the app immediately. Get off right now. Get off right now. Seriously.
All right. Take care.
Otherwise,
Good
you're
debate.
hypocritical. Get off right now.
Have a good one.
Is he actually gonna leave? No way. Yep, stay off TikTok. Don't spread this. Exiled. You're gone. Come on. Are you actually leaving? No way. Come on, dude. That's nuts. And don't come back. And don't come back. And don't you come back.